The Black Yajurveda concludes with Kanda 7, Prapathaka 5, the Gabam Ayana. And before we get into that, we have a note regarding Mantra 7.4.19, and the note with it says that the verses are hardly translatable, and there's a note explaining the difficulty in translating them. And some of that can be the case, that at the time they didn't understand the language, but as I said previously, Keith and Griffith obscured some of the sexual references in particular. Mantra 751. The cows performed that sutra, being hornless, with a desire. May horns be born to us. For 10 months they performed it, and then horns were born, and they ceased the rite, saying, we have obtained our desire. Then those whose horns were not born ceased the rite after making up the year, saying, we have obtained our desire. Both those which obtained horns and those which did not ceased, saying, we have obtained our desire. The year is the cows, Satra, and those who knowing thus perform the year sacrifice are prosperous. Therefore, a hornless cow has pleasure during the 2 months of the rainy season, for that it is won for it by the Satra. Therefore, whatever is done in the home of one who performs for a year Satra, that is done completely, successfully, and adequately. Those who perform the year Satra are swimming on the ocean. He who does not see the further bank of the ocean cannot get out from it. The ocean is the year. Its further banks are the 2 Eteratras. Those who knowing thus perform the year Satra reach the end without injury. The former Eteratra is this, earth. The latter is yonder, sky. The former is mind. The latter speech. The former expiration. The latter inspiration, inhalation. The former the commencement. The latter the end. The Eteratra is a Jyotishtoma of Vaisvanara. Verily they put light before them to reveal the world of heaven. There is a fore-offering, accompanied by the Chaturvimsa stoma. The year has 24 half-months. Verily, as they go on, they find support in the year. There are 360 Stotriyas. So many are the nights of the year. Verily they attain both forms of the year. They perform the rites of the next days for rest, for safety. There are 6 day periods. The year has 6 seasons. Verily they find support in the seasons. The year, the go, and the use. Stomas are the stomas in the middle. Verily they place a pair in the middle of the year for procreation. On either side there is the Jyotishtoma. It is the releasing. Verily, the meters are released. Verily, also they go to the world of heaven with the 6th day rite, which has a Jyotistoma on either side. The theologians say they sit. By what path do they go? One should reply, by the path that leads to the gods. The path that leads to the gods is the meters, the Gayatri, Drishtub, and Jagati. The Gayatri is the Jyotistoma, the Drishtub, the Goshtoma, the Jagati, the Ayushtoma, and that there are these stomas. So, do they go by the path that leads to the gods? There is used the same summon. The summon is the world of the gods. Verily they leave not the world of the gods. There are used various verses. The verses are the world of men. Verily they keep mounting one world of gods after another from the world of men. There is the Brahman's summon as the Abhivarta to win the world of heaven. There is the Abhijit day for the gaining of the world of heaven. There is the Visvajit day for gaining of all. Month by month they perform the prishtas. Month by month the atigrayas are drawn. Verily in each month they place strength. For the support of the months they perform the prishtas in the latter part of the month. Therefore it is on the top that the plants bear fruit. And we see implied that, what we're seeing listed as gods, we might better say light beings, to let people make their own decision how they're going to treat them. That they stay according to certain terms. Unfallen angels, we call them that for a reason, because they don't make the mistakes. They stay in their own realm of the terms that the scriptures and such has defined them. Of course, in its purest sense, the scriptures, as they were revealed by ultimate divinity, don't limit the light beings in some of the ways that we're going to encounter. But one of the things about these rituals is that some of them, if you actually knew, you wouldn't do sins of omission. You wouldn't even skip out on the voluntary things that you can still live your life doing if you really knew. That's why we talk about not just sin and righteousness, but we talk about, ignorance and enlightenment too. Mantra 752. The cows performed that sutra, being hornless, and desiring to obtain horns. For 10 months they performed it, and then horns appeared, and they said, We have gained them. Let us cease the rite, for we have attained the desire for the sake of which we began the rite. But others said, Either half of them or as many as might be the case, let us perform the rite for these months, the 11th and the 12th, and when we have made up the year, let us cease. In their case, their horns grew in the 12th month, whether by faith or by lack of faith, and that is, those which have no homespot indeed were prosperous, those which gained horns and those which won strength. He who ceases after 10 months is prosperous, and he who ceases after 12 also, if he knows thus. They go by their feet, and he who goes by his foot attains what he seeks. The jnana is successful, and therefore it is productive of cows. Those which have no horns, both. So in the previous thing, well, the cows that are going to grow horns are going to grow horns after they're born at that time, regardless. But one's, of course, enacting that point of the process. Because people say, well, it would have happened anyways. Yeah, but you're spiritually connecting to it and thus giving it power. And perhaps some things happen. Part of the decision for letting them happen is because one has performed a ritual. Mantra 753. They perform the prishtas in the first month. They perform them in the middle month. They perform them in the last month. They say, in the case of a cow, which they milk thrice a day, she yields sparingly at the latter 2 milkings. How then can she be milked, who is 12 times milked? Having made up the year, they should perform the prishtas once in the last month. Verily the sacrificers win the sacrifice and cattle. It is an ocean without a near or a further shore that they enter upon who perform the year right. If they employ the Brihat and the Ratantara summons, it would be as if they were to provide a boat in the middle of the ocean. Going continuously with the Brihat and the Ratantara, they obtain support. The union is milked for all desires. Thus the sacrificers obtain all desires. And we certainly go above what we think of in terms of what we ask for ritually. Mantra 754. The riches are the same. The riches are the world of men. Verily they leave not the world of man. There are different summons. The summon is the world of the gods. Verily they descend from the world of the gods to one world after another of men. They first use the Jagati, and the meters descend from the Jagati. The cups from the Agrayana, the Prishnas from the Brihat, the stones from the Trayastrimasa, Trayastrimsa. Therefore, the younger descends before an elder. The Visvakarman cup is drawn. Really by it, sacrificers win all rights. The cup for Aditya is drawn. Aditya is this, earth. Verily they rest on this, earth. The one and the other are drawn, preparing for propagation of old Prajapati, created offspring, by means of these 10-night rites. In that the 10-night rite is performed, the sacrificers create offspring. Udanka Saul Vayana has declared the 10-night rite to be the prosperity of the Satra, and the 10-night rite serves for the prosperity of the Satra. Verily also, whatever is done wrongly in the earlier days, this serves to atone for it. So, 270 nights? Or are we thinking of a night representing a month? In, the 10, don't elephants take 10 months to give birth? But for the human, in the womb and then the newborn, would that be what it represents? Mantra 755. If 2 libations are offered simultaneously, then one should perform the early litany. In the advanced part of the night, he who does it first wins the speech, the gods, and the meters of the others. The strophe should contain the word strong, Vershan,
Verily he takes Indra away from their morning pressing, or rather they say the strophe at the beginning of each pressing should be of this kind. Verily he takes Indra away from each of their pressings, for entry, for rest, for the overcoming of the Gyatri, of the Trishtub, of the Jagati, of the Adashtub, of the Pankte. Hail, entry and rest are the meters. Verily by the meters he takes away their meters. One should recite the Janissary hymn. One should recite the Vihavya hymn. One should recite the Kaya Subbiya hymn of Agastya. This is indeed is so much as that. Verily he takes away so much as is theirs. If at the early pressing the bowl is broken, they should sing verses addressed to Vishnu, and containing the epithet Sipe Vishta. Whatever in the sacrifice is redundant with regard to Vishnu, Sipe Vishta. Verily, Vishnu, Sipe Vishta places the redundant in the redundant. Verily, having obtained the redundant by the redundant, they win it. If it is broken at midday pressing, they should make the saman have the Vashatkara as its final. The support of the sacrifice is the Vashatkara. Verily, they make the saman obtain support. If it breaks at the third pressing, the same thing should be done. Stumble a little bit. Vashatkara as its finale. And we see this redundant. I don't think that's the right word, because there's, of course, the negative connotation of that, but obviously the idea is it's not according to our ideals or how we would put it, but some things about the verses and stuff would naturally be that way. The support of the sacrifice is the Vashatkara. Verily they make the saman obtain support. If it breaks at the third pressing, the same thing. And if you don't know of anything different, the same rules sort of apply. Conclusion. It's called going, some people, if it's only the letters, you follow only the letters, well, the Book of Stone is fine, and if you follow the Book of Stone, but sometimes it's not explicitly according to the situation, but you should kind of know how to make a living outside that, the situation listed. Mantra 756. Having made up the month with the 6-day periods, they leave out a day, for they behold the months by the 6-day periods. Having made up the months with the half months, they leave out a day, for they behold the months by the half months. Having made up the months by the new moon night, they leave out a day, for they behold the months by the new moon night. Having made up the months by the full moon night, they leave out a day, for they behold the month by the full moon night. He who pours liquid into a full vessel wastes the liquid. He who pours out from a full vessel places breath in it. In that having made up the months with the full moon night, they leave out a day, they place breath in the year, and the performers of the sakra breathe along it. If they did not leave out a day, then the year would fall asunder, as falls asunder a skin bag tied tight, and they would be ruined in that, having made up the months with the full moon night, they leave out a day, and they place out breathing in the year, and the performers of the sakra breathe out along it, and are not ruined. At the full moon, the stomach of the gods is pressed, and that having made up the months with the full moon night,
They leave out a day with a sacrifice to the gods. They go to another sacrifice. They cleave asunder the sacrifice in that after performing it. As a series of 6-day rites, they leave out a day. They offer an animal for Prajapata. Prajapata is all the gods. Verily with the gods do they offer the sacrifice. They leave the pressing, who leave out the day. The Samnaya is the fourth pressing, because there is the Samnaya. They do not leave the pressing. They partake of it after uttering the invocation, for they have this then as their soma drink. The deities who share in the pressings of those who leave out the day go to their places. They offer the sacrificial cakes in each of the pressings. Truly they win the deities who share in the pressing from their several places. They offer the cakes on 8 potsherds at the early pressing, on 11 potsherds at the midday pressing, and on the 12 potsherds at the third pressing. Verily they entertain and win the meters. They offer an oblation to the all gods at the third pressing. The third pressing belongs to the all gods. Verily they leave not the third pressing. Now I've saved a couple things that got broken. One in this room, one in the forest. To fix later. But some people will save their broken utensils or something to include in a ritual. You don't have to freshly break your pots to do that. Mantra 757. The theologians consider, should a day be left out, or should it not be left out? They say it should be left out. They say it should be left out at the new moon and at the full moon, for these two guide the sacrifice. These two must not be left out. They say for these two determine the dependent sacrifice, the day, should be left out on the first Vyashtaka. They say, for this is what rends the month. They should not leave out a day which is appointed. If they should leave out one that is appointed, they should leave it out on the 7th day after making up the months with 6-day periods, whatever be the recurrent position which it occupies in the course of the 6-day period. They should then offer to Agni with the Vasus a cake on 11 potsherds to Indra, curds to Indra with the Marutas, a cake on 11 potsherds, to the all gods a cake on 12 potsherds. The early pressing belongs to Agni with the Vasus, in that they offer to Agni with the Vasus a cake on 8 potsherds. They make the god share in it, and they approach the pressing with 8, in that the curds belong to Indra. They do not shut out Indra from a share. The midday pressing belongs to Indra with the Marutas, in that they offer to Indra with the Marutas a cake on 11 potsherds. They make the gods share in it, and they approach
therefore the fire which is produced on the fire altar, and for Soma, the king, the beast for Agna and Soma, is the guest offering. Again, the fire which is piled up is cruel, and if one were not to cast upon the fire which has been piled up these oblations, the cruel fire will spring up in wrath, and injure the offspring and cattle of the sacrificer. And then he casts the oblations on the fire which has been piled up. He appeases it with its own portion. And the cruel fire does not spring up in wrath and injure his offspring and cattle. There are 10 oblations, 9 are the breaths and man, and the navel is the 10th. Verily he places breath in the sacrificer. Again, the garage is of 10 syllables. In garage's food, verily he finds support in the garage as food. It must be piled with the seasons, the meters, the stoma, and the krishnas. They say in that he casts these oblations. He piles it with the seasons, the meters, the stomas, and the krishnas. The quarters can be won by one who has pressed the soma, they say, in that he casts these oblations, that is, for the winning of the quarters. The gods made Indra sacrifice with it, and therefore it is Indra's pressing. Then made Manu sacrifice with it, and therefore it is Manu's pressing. As Indra among the gods, as Manu among men, becomes he who, knowing thus, sacrifices this sacrifice. The Vakyas contain the word quarter, or the conquest of the quarters. Now, one of the things that we find is that, so Manu, clearly here, is not one of the light beings, not God itself. Some terms are, is it a light being or is it God? It depends on the passage what they're talking about, and but they're polytheistic, so there's certain limits that they kind of expect with deity. But Manu, whether Manu is worshipped or not, is apparent that Manu is a human being. And some people think that Manu is Noah, sort of a contraction of Maha-Nua. Ma-Nua. Mantra 7, 6, 16 goes up to B. Who is the sole Lord of the world, which breatheth and winketh through his greatness? Who is the Lord of biped and quadruped here? Who is the God whom we are to worship with oblation? Thou art taken with the foundation. I take thee dear to Prapathaka. Of thee the sky is the greatness, the nakshatras the form, the sun the splendor to his greatness. To Prapathaka thee I offer. Hail. See, so Prajapata, that concept isn't entirely the ultimate essence, but it's reference to the ultimate essence, just like Vishnu and stuff. And we saw previously fire. Well, the fire is a means, and it's harsh, and it's according to its terms, right? But of course, deity can say, "Be cool with fire," but don't just pray and stick your hand on fire or something like that. Mantra 7:5-17 goes up to B. He who is the giver of soul, the giver of strength, on whose instruction the gods depend, whose shadow is immortality, whose shadow is death, who is the God whom we are to worship with oblation. Thou art taken with foundation, I take thee dear to Prajapata. Of thee the earth is the greatest, the plants and trees the form, the fire the splendor to his greatness. To Prajapata thee I offer. Hail. So, life and death, the ever-living, cause of death, these are divine qualities or names, but not the essence. Ultimate divinities beyond that. Mantra 7518. In the priesthood may a Brahmana be born of spiritual glory. In this kingdom may a prince be born, an archer, a hero, and a great car fighter, a milk cow, a draught ox, a swift racer, a prolific woman, a victorious warrior, a youth fit for the assembly. To this sacrificer be a hero born. May Parjanya reign for us whensoever we desire. May our plants ripen with fruit. May union and peace be ours. And rather than per se competition with, we certainly hope what is best for those operating a priestly position. That it works with the rest of society, of course, that it works spiritually, not just some political or economic thing. Mantra 7519 goes up to B. The steed hath come to the earth, the strong steed hath made Agna his yoke fellow. The steed hath come to the atmosphere, the strong steed hath made Vayu his yoke fellow. The steed hath come to the sky, the strong steed hath made Surya his yoke fellow. Agna is thy yoke fellow, O steed, I grasped thee, bear me prosperously. Vayu is thy yoke fellow, O steed, I grasped thee, bear me prosperously. The Aditya is thy yoke fellow, O steed, I grasped thee, bear me prosperously. Thou art the supporter of expiration, support my expiration. Thou art the supporter of crossbreeding, support my crossbreeding. Thou art the supporter of inhalation, support my inhalation. Thou art the eye, place the eye in me. Thou art the ear, place the ear in me. Thou art life, place life in me. Mantra 7520. Oh, the steed hath come to earth. See, the good things are sent down. Don't just think of them as there, think of them as specifically bestowed. But 7520, may the seed be living, Parjanya reign. The kernel be ripened, the plants rich in leaves, this earth easy to walk on, the fire easy of approach, the atmosphere easy to see through, the wind purifying, the sky easy of access, he that burns yonder kindly, the day and night as of old, the half months of 15 days, the months of 30 days, the seasons in due order, and the year auspicious. And definitely try to find the auspicious turn of it for you. Mantra 7521, to Agna, offering is made on 8 potsherds, to Soma, an oblation, to Savitar, offering on 8 potsherds, to Pushan, an oblation, to Rudra, an oblation, to Agna, the Isthanara, offering on 8 potsherds. If he should not go to the wild beast slayer, to Agna, savior from distress. Offering is made on 8 potsherds, to Surya, milk is offered. Vayu receives a share in the better offering. Now, there's inherent shares without mention, and then there's ones that, if the permission is used. Mantra 7522, to Agna, savior from distress, offerings made on 8 potsherds, to Indra, savior from distress, on 11 potsherds, to Mitra and Varuna, saviors from sin, a milk offering, to Vayu and Savitar, saviors from sin, an oblation, to the Asvins, saviors from sin, grain, to the Marutas, saviors from evil, on 7 potsherds, to the All-Gods, saviors from evil, on 12 potsherds, to Anamata, an oblation to Agni, Vaisvanara, and 12 potsherds. 2. Heaven and earth, saviors from evil, on 2 potsherds. Now, whether something is good or bad, it is in different ways, so if we're making a turning from evil, definitely has to be addressed from different directions. Mantra 7523. To Agni he made obeisance. To the earth he made obeisance. As Agni with the earth made harmony, so for me may favorable harmonies be made. To Vayu he made obeisance. To the atmosphere he made obeisance. As Vayu with the atmosphere made harmony, too. So on. To Surya he made obeisance. To the sky he made obeisance. As Surya with the sky made harmony, so etc. To the moon he made obeisance. To the nakshatras he made obeisance. As the moon with the nakshatras made harmony, too, etc. To Varuna he made obeisance. To the waters he made obeisance. As Varuna with the waters made harmony, so etc. To the Saman he made obeisance. To the rich he made obeisance. As the Saman with the rich made harmony, so etc. To the Brahman caste he made obeisance. To the Kshatra caste he made obeisance. As the Brahman with the Kshatriya made harmony, so etc. The king he made obeisance. To the people he made obeisance. As the king with the people made harmony, so etc. To the chariot he made obeisance. To the horse he made obeisance. As the chariot with the horses made harmony, so etc. To Prajapati he made obeisance. So creatures he made obeisance. As Prajapati with creatures made harmony, so for me may favorable harmonies be made. Made harmony, so etc. listed. But that was in parentheses, rather than not in parentheses. So are we supposed to say, so for me may favorable harmony be made? Yeah, just keep on saying made harmonies, so for me may favorable harmonies be made. I think that's what you're supposed to do, but it's in parentheses, so 7524 goes up to B. Thine ancient paths, O Savitar, that are extended, dustless, through the atmosphere. With these today, with thy paths easy to travel, guard us, and O God, speak for us. Reverence to Agni, dweller on earth, maker of room, grant room to this thy sacrificer. Reverence to Vayu, dweller in the atmosphere, maker of room, grant room to this thy sacrificer. Reverence to Surya, dweller in the sky, maker of room, grant room to this thy sacrificer. And if a ritual's crowded, figure out how to have room. But cosmological rituals like the hexagram and pentagram and septagram rites, they sort of lay forth a sacred space, usually that extends beyond the sacred space that is actually the sacred space of the operation. But Mantra 7525, he who knows the head of the sacrificial horse becomes possessed of a head and fit for sacrifice. The head of the sacrificial horse is the dawn, the eye of the sun, the breath, the wind, the ear, the moon, the feet, the quarters, the ribs, the intermediate quarters, the winking, the day and night, the joints, the half months, the joinings, the months, the limbs, the seasons, the trunk, the year, the hair, the rays of the god, the form, the nakshatras, the trees, the mouth, Agni, the open mouth, Vaisvanara, the belly, the sea, the anus, the atmosphere. the testicles, the sky, and the earth, the membrum virile, the pressing stone, the seed, the soma. When it chews, there is lightning. When it moves about, there is thundering. When it makes water, there is rain. Its speech is speech. Mahiman cup indeed is born before the birth of the horse as the day. The Mahiman cup is born after it as the night. These two Mahiman cups surround on either side the horse. As Haya stayed, it carried the gods. As Arvan courser, the Asuras. As Vajan racer, the Gandharvas. As Asva horse, men, the birthplace of the horse. Indeed, it's the sea. Its kindred is the sea. And the symbolic attachment to the different parts. What you can talk about the anus because it passes gas is the atmosphere. But you can't say the word penis. Okay, that's,